Welcome to part 3 of how to replace a door skin, or how I replace a door skin. Obviously the last couple of parts have been stripping the door of the old door skin. The last episode was us putting the new repair panel in at the bottom and showing you how to do that, or how I do it. I must keep saying, not how you should do it, how I do it. So the next thing we've got left now to do is repair the corners. Both sides are fairly gone, seem worse again as always. So what we need to do is join this up and make this corner piece on both sides. I'm going to do it in 2 parts just because that's how I'm doing it. I haven't got the skills to be folding too much in one go, so I'll create this curved bit first, and then I'll weld a sheet of bit of metal on to create the lip. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. What I'm going to do though is actually just clean this hole up here. You can see here where the 2 panels are, where the old panel and the new panel and the repair panels are sort of just a weird arse shape when they finish it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this hole off a bit, because it just makes it a hell of a lot easier having a square hole, because then you can make a square panel to fit instead of making a weird shaped panel. There's no reason to make a weird shaped panel in my instance. So yeah, let's clean that up a bit so it's at least just 3 straight edges, regardless of if they're not 90 degrees or not. It's just easier if they're 3 straight edges. So we'll clean both sides up, and then we'll start creating the panels. Alright, I'll cut the other side off. I'm starting to see that this panel is always not brilliant, this outer skin. And I did some quick repairs while I was doing the door frames and stuff, just to make the door solid, because it was so cracked along here. It was just making the door flex all over the place. So I put some nasty welds in to try and solid it up, and it did fine for the moment, but it's very weak along here. There's lots of little holes down this edge, so we need to see what we're going to do about that, whether we can just repair it in situ with just a bit of aluminium plate behind it and just welding, or even more needs to be cut out. So we'll just have to see on that one. So what we do is get on and repair the other end first. It's definitely not as bad. So as always, I like to reuse what metal I've got laying around. So we'll pick up the old bit of metal that was the offcut from the old panel. And for some reason, what I like to do, instead of, if I was doing this, I am going to be doing it in 2 bits. So what you could just do is flat bit of plate there, flat bit of plate there, do a weld around the edge, and carry on. But what I sort of seem to like to do for some reason is, when I do this edge, because I know I've got a 90 degree, I find a bit of metal that's already got a slight 90 degree bend in it. Not by much, just like this one, it's just got a little lip. And then I clean that up and I cut it, and then basically the bit I bend already has a slight 90 degree lip on it. As I said, just a tiny bit, but it just gives me a bit more strength in the corner there, so when I weld this other plate on it, I get slightly less distortion. Whether it really matters or not is another question. As I said, if you're really skillful, make it out of 1 piece. But as I said, I'll make it out of 2 pieces, and I'll try and use a little bit of one of these edges if I've got one. So let me give that a go and I'll show you what I do. So what I do is I'll just trim it to size first. Again, other people may make cardboard templates. I do make cardboard templates quite often. These sort of instances, I seem to sort of just wing it, and I'll show you what I do. So let's trim it up first and get on. So you can see here, I just cut a bit of that panel off, and you can see I've just left a bit of the folded edge on it. So what I'm going to then attempt to do is bend this around here and make the same curvature of this. And because it's just a tiny lip, it allows you to bend it. If you have much more of a lip, you would end up creasing things, or you'd have to cut slits in it to actually get the curve right. So what I'm going to do is just bend that up, and then what I'll do is I'll trim this back first, so I've got enough room to actually fit it behind there. And you might have just noticed that I've actually just folded it the wrong way, because actually I want the lip coming outwards. So I'm going to have to straighten it back again. And yeah, so if I'll bend that, just start bending by hand a little bit, try not to get too many creases in, the best you can. As I said, I've got no rollers here, no benders, And then basically, yeah, try and get that in a position where I can get it nicely as flush as I can to where the gap is. And once I've got it flush, I can then mark it. So what I definitely want to do is just trim this panel down a bit now, this repair panel, just so it drops in a bit more. So I'll just cut a little slither off this. Alright, so I'll trim that down a bit just so it now fits in. And now what I can do is make sure this lip lines up with that lip. And once I've got that level, I can basically either use anything to mark it. Once I've got the rough curve here, in this instance I'll just use a screwdriver. You can use pencils, you can use marker pens, whatever you want to do. And so basically got the mark there. So let's cut that out and see how well it fits. Okay, so cut my little section. It's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is just get some tack welds on it and just make sure it's sitting well. Just going to clean up that little corner. I've spotted something. Alright, got that section tacked in. I'll put a few more proper welds on it now, and then we can wind it flush and then we'll go to the next bit. I find it's easier to work on lots of little bits first, because then if you then tack the whole lot and then you weld it, it starts pulling quite a lot. Well, I find that sometimes. So yeah, get this bit solidly in, you know what you're doing, then you can move on to the next bit. Okay, that's that corner edge done now, or that corner bit. So what we need to now do is make this bit now. So all I'm going to do is find a bit of metal. Not too sure if the stuff I've got is big enough. This scrap bit, sometimes it is, I think it will be, because we know this is a curve, this one. So what I'll do is I'll just basically mark that out in a second. We'll cut it a bit smaller and I'll mark it out. Again, using more left over the panels. Where's my marker? Spider. That's my screwdriver. Give me a second. Oh, no, put you on pause. Okay, fairly simple trick I do. I don't know, trick, whatever, bodge. So as I said, we know this is a curve. We've got plenty of metal left. So basically what I'm going to do is, for the moment, just scribe the curve. So we're left with that. So all I'm going to do is cut that out, and then we'll weld that on, and then we'll deal with shaping it afterwards. Alright, cut this side out. I mean, I've turned it around. I've cut the shape out. I find this one, it's easy to weld from this side now. Again, because then you can get a nice good weld on this side and then grind it off a lot easier, because it's a lot easier to grind the outside of a corner than it is trying to grind the inside. So, but first what we do is we get a couple of welds either end, so we know that the two faces and the flange lines up all the way around, and then we'll let the weld do the rest and fill any little gaps or whatever. And again, the benefit of having this slight curve now on this panel just gives you a little bit more to weld to, a bit more of an edge, and it can also take a little bit more heat. So there, let's get that welded on. Okay, that's that corner welded on, so that's that side done now. So what I just need to do is just trim this off a little bit, and roughly, I can roughly guess the shape, but what I'll do is I can easily trim it back a little bit more once I go to put the door skin on later, and I can double check that. Okay, just ground that down a little bit, give a bit of extra prime on it just for the moment. So hopefully you guys can see that. And then we'll just try and turn it around. So you guys can see the edge. There you go, so that's one corner of the door done. Let's have a look at the other end because that looks a bit more tricky now. Okay, a couple of issues with this edge. We got a crack appearing just along the flat edge here where the hinge panel is, and then obviously we've also got nothing left on the corner edge of where the panel folds. So yeah, ideally maybe scrap the door, maybe get a replacement one of these, or grind this off and remake it. But I'm gonna have a go at repairing it and just see how we go. So basically, I've got a few more holes where I was doing some bits, as I said a while ago with the door skin on. I was doing some bodge repairs there just to get it solid. But now I've got the door skin off, I can get it from the other side. So basically what I'm going to do is get some nice good deep weld on this crack here, and that can be ground off. And then we'll turn it over, then I'm going to try and use this aluminium and then weld from the other side. I'm only using aluminium because other people use brass and copper, I think. Because basically what you can do is you can then weld from the other side and it doesn't stick to the aluminium. Well, it doesn't stick too much, that's for sure. So we'll show you that in a bit. So let's try and get a good weld on this first. Okay, so my next attempt is to try and repair this panel a bit and using weld. So basically I'm going to hold that on there. And then basically get some welds and try and fill up this gap if I can. If not, I'm going to have to just cut it all off and see how we go. Let's try this first. I think I'm going to get away with just being able to repair that edge. The good thing is to make sure it's solid. If it's solid, it's not seen, as long as it doesn't get away the hinges or folding the panel over. In my mind, that's good enough, definitely. So what we need to do now is carry on and do what we did the other side, finish it off this curve, finish the lip off. Don't forget this lip on this side, I'm pretty sure is square, or much squarer, it's not curved like the other end. So we need to make sure that we've got enough metal on that when we make the lip. Okay, start off again using a bit of scrap from the old door panel still. Again, same method, leaving a little bit of a lip. I can now start to bend this into a curve to match the door. Doesn't matter if you're a little bit clumsy with your thumbs, you can use the gentle persuading tool later just to get it to match. Slightly trickier on this one is that I can't really, or I can sort of get behind there, but I can't as much because this panel's in the way. So what I might do is cut this edge so it fits nicely, which to be honest doesn't need anything really doing, and then keep following the arch round, and then we'll go from there. Okay, didn't make this one as well. Made to put it in there, and it's a bit too small, so I'm just going to have to remake it, cut another bit of metal. Maybe cardboard templates would have saved me this, but hey ho. Alright, I'll recut the next bit. I think it's quite good. I think I just need to gently tap it around with a hammer We'll get that tacked on and see what it's looking like. Alright, that's that edge sorted. Corner, all that section. So we now need to create the triangle bit that goes on the end of the door frame. So I don't think the metal I've got left is enough, so we'll have to use a bigger sheet. Or remember cutting the old door skin off. That's always useful to still reuse, just for bits of metal like this. You know, the bits of the centre of the door skin are absolutely fine, so all good. So let's find a bit. Okay, cut myself off a bit of metal. A little bit thicker than I really need to be honest. It's not much difference, but definitely is a bit thicker. So basically, yeah, I want to do what I did last time. Mark the curve that's left, and then we can cut that out and weld that in, and then I can finish this off, flush it off a bit better once I've got the door skin on later. Okay, I'll cut that section. Time to turn the door over and get some welds on it and see what it's looking like. Alright, that's corners pretty much done now. A little bit more fettling, mostly a little bit more trimming to do once I put the door skin on, but we can do that again, as I said, later. So we'll get a bit of extra prime on that. And then pretty much the only thing left on this door frame to do is just fill a few more holes down this corner edge, and I think we're good enough. And what we'll do next is we'll put the hinges back on and we'll bolt the whole frame just as it is to the car, so we can then see where we're going and see if anything's completely out, and we've got a chance to fix it before we even try and put the door skin on, because once the door skin's on there is not much wiggle room. But yeah, as I said, bolt it to the car it is. So I'll just clean that up. Okay, that's the bulk of the door welded up. A little bit more cleaning up to do, but I think I'll be happy for now. I want to try and get the hinges just screwed on for now, and then we can see what it looks like on the car, and I think that'll be the end of this part. So yeah, let's get these screwed on. Got those hinges on. What I've just noticed while I was doing this is I've got a few cracks. It does tend to crack these doors just around this door pillar area. So, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to bother welding that just yet. I'm going to get it on the car, because there's no point welding it and then getting on the car and realising actually your window's sticking out by 2 inches. So I might as well get it on the car, make sure it looks good, then I can weld it while it's on the car and be sure that it's going to be fitting well. Alright, I'll get it to fit to the car. Okay, I've got the door hung on the car now, and as you can see, it can quite easily go out of alignment. You can see that the top's bowing out quite a lot. It's not a problem at the moment because this door is so flimsy, you can just twist the whole door. Anyway, which is the thing, is that you can twist it once the skin is on, and the skin will hold it in the correct position. So that's why you might see some doors that come and they start bowing out right at the top, because obviously the person who put the skin on hasn't even tried it on the car, and they've just done it on the bench, think it looks good, and bang. So it's not too bad. I'm not too worried about that at the moment. The main thing is the door actually fits the hole, and the frame is all solid pretty much. So we just need to do the weld up here, make sure that the door does fit, and it will twist. And then what we'll do is the next episode will be putting the skin on, but before we tighten the skin up completely at the end and weld it in the little bits of areas that are needed, we will make sure that the door leans it correctly and then that door will be done. All right, until part 4, and then hopefully the part 4 will be the completion of the door. Cheers, bogies.